Right then, let's talk about fighter jets. Not just any old jet, but a particularly clever one from Sweden called the Saab Gripen. Now you might think of Sweden and picture meatballs, flat-pack furniture, and sensible family cars. But what they've also built is a jet fighter that is, frankly, brilliant. It's not the biggest nor the fastest thing in the sky, not like some American brute with more power than sense. No, the Gripen is different. It's small, it's nimble, and it was designed with a very specific, very Swedish idea in mind. To get the job done with the minimum of fuss, even when everything else has gone completely pear-shaped. It is in many ways the perfect machine for a world that's suddenly become a bit dicey. The Gripen is what you might call a light fighter. It's the automotive equivalent of a hot hatchback, a Ford Fiesta ST for the skies. It doesn't need a massive, perfectly manicured runway that stretches for miles. Oh no, the clever Swedes designed it to take off from a simple bit of road, maybe a frozen lake, or a small airstrip hidden in a forest. This is a machine built for surviving when the main airports have been turned into smoking craters. It can be refueled and rearmed by just a few blokes with a truck in under 10 minutes. It is a masterpiece of pragmatic get-it-done engineering, a stark contrast to the pampered, high-maintenance supermodels from other nations. But why does any of this matter? Well, because this plucky little jet holds up a mirror to the rest of Europe, and the reflection is not flattering. You see, while Sweden was quietly preparing for the worst, building machines that could fight on their own terms without a 5-star airbase, the rest of the continent was, to put it bluntly, snoozing. Most of Europe's military thinking has been built on the cozy assumption that there will always be big fancy airports, endless supplies, and most importantly, that the Americans will always be there to sort everything out. The Gripen, with its rugged self-sufficiency, exposes this as a dangerously comfortable dream. This isn't just about one aeroplane, of course. The Gripen is a symbol. It represents a way of thinking that Europe has largely forgotten: how to be genuinely independent and resilient. It asks a very awkward question. What happens when your perfectly paved runway gets a missile-shaped hole in it? What happens when the supply trucks can't get through? What happens when you need to fight a war from your own back garden, not from some distant, well-stocked base? The Gripen has the answer, but it seems that for decades, most of Europe wasn't even listening to the question. And that is a truly terrifying thought. Now let's look at the soldiers, the men and women who are supposed to stand between us and a rather unpleasant chap from the East. On paper, Europe looks formidable. You add up all the armies and you get a headline figure of about 1.5 million active troops. Sounds impressive, doesn't it? You'd think with a number like that, Europe could fend for itself quite nicely. But here's the problem, and it's a big one. Having soldiers on a spreadsheet is not the same as having soldiers you can actually send into a fight. A huge chunk of these troops are simply not deployable. They lack the training, the equipment, or the central command to be moved quickly to where they're needed. The reality is a mess of different armies, with different kit who don't really talk to each other properly. It's like trying to build a supercar using parts from a Lada, a Peugeot, and a lawnmower. It just doesn't work. While Russia had around 700,000 troops fighting in Ukraine at the end of 2024, a single unified force, Europe's supposed strength, is a fractured illusion. NATO has plans, of course. They talk about moving 300,000 troops to the eastern flank in 30 days. But these are just plans, lines on a map drawn up in a comfortable office in Brussels. The logistics required to actually do that are mind-boggling, and a headache Europe hasn't prepared for. And then there's the recruitment crisis, which is frankly a catastrophe. Young people today, it seems, would rather be influencers than infantry. Germany, the economic engine of Europe, is a perfect example. Their army stood at just 181,174 soldiers at the end of last year, miles short of their target. Worse still, over a quarter of new recruits in 2023 quit during their trial period. Why? Because of boredom, terrible equipment, and living conditions that would make a student flat look like the Ritz. It's not just Germany. Belgium is so desperate it's sending letters to 120,000 teenagers hoping just 500 will volunteer. It's utterly pathetic. So you have an army that isn't really an army, and you can't even persuade people to join the one you've got. This isn't a small problem, it's a gaping wound in Europe's ability to defend itself. Some countries, like Sweden and Finland, have kept conscription, forcing people to serve. Poland is trying to massively expand its army, but these are exceptions. For the most part, Europe has forgotten that a strong defense requires more than just fancy speeches and flags. It requires actual people, and it seems the continent has lost the will to find them, creating a vacuum that is becoming more dangerous by the day. For the last 70 years, Europe has had a very simple defense policy. Hide behind the Americans. Whenever there was a problem, a crisis, or a loud bang in the distance, everyone would look nervously across the Atlantic, waiting for the US cavalry to ride over the hill. All of NATO's grand plans, all those arrows on maps showing troop movements, have a massive, unspoken assumption built into them. They utterly depend on American command, American transport planes, American spy satellites, and American logistics. Without the United States, NATO's plan to move 300,000 troops to the front line is nothing more than a fantasy. It simply cannot be done. This reliance has made Europe lazy. It's like having a rich uncle who always pays the bills. You never learn to budget for yourself. European nations have been allowed to underinvest in the boring, unglamorous stuff, the cargo planes, the refueling tankers, the command and control systems, because they knew Uncle Sam would always provide. But what happens when the uncle decides he has other priorities? In February of this year, a new American administration made it perfectly clear that its focus was shifting. The message was blunt. Europe, you are on your own. Suddenly, the safety net has been pulled away, and Europe is dangling over a very long drop. The numbers are staggering. To replace what the US provides, Europe would need to find the equivalent of 300,000 American troops, not just in bodies, but in capability. That means hundreds of heavy transport aircraft, vast intelligence networks, and the sort of complex logistical support that Europe has simply never bothered to build for itself. This isn't something you can fix by buying a few more tanks. This requires a fundamental rewiring of the entire European defense structure, a project that would take decades and cost astronomical sums of money. Money that, frankly, most countries would rather spend on other things. This is where the risk becomes terrifyingly real. NATO's own chief, Mark Rutte, warned in 2025 that Russia could be ready to attack a NATO country by 2030. That's just a few years away. And the big American shield that was supposed to protect everyone is looking increasingly unreliable. The continent has been living on borrowed time and borrowed strength. The bill is now coming due, and Europe has found itself standing at the counter with an empty wallet, a dazed expression, and the worrying realization that the security it took for granted was never really its own to begin with. And so we come back to that magnificent little Swedish jet, the Gripen. It was designed for a country that never had the luxury of assuming someone else would come to the rescue. It was built to be tough, independent, and effective with limited resources. It's a fighter jet for the real world, not the fantasy world of endless American support that Europe has been living in. The Gripen shows that it is possible to build a credible defense without bankrupting yourself or needing a continent-sized support network. It proves that clever design and a pragmatic mindset can overcome a lack of sheer numbers. This is the lesson Europe desperately needs to learn. The Gripen's philosophy is what Europe must adopt. It needs to stop buying eye-wateringly expensive, high-maintenance equipment that only works under perfect conditions and relies on American help. Instead, it needs to focus on interoperability, efficiency, and self-reliance. It needs systems that can be operated and maintained by Europeans on European soil without a call to the Pentagon. It needs to embrace the Gripen mindset. Be smart, be agile, and be prepared to fight with what you have, not what you wish you had. The continent needs more Gripens, not just in the air, but in its entire military thinking. This means hard choices. It means spending more on defense and spending it more wisely. It means bringing back conscription or finding new ways to convince young people that serving their country is a noble and necessary calling. It means countries like Germany and France must stop squabbling over joint projects and actually build things that work together. It means creating a genuine European command structure that isn't just a placeholder for the Americans. It requires a level of political will and unity that Europe has rarely shown. The time for dithering and debate is over. Ultimately, the future of European security will not be decided in Washington. It will be decided in Berlin, Paris, Warsaw, and Rome. Europe has the money, the technology, and the people to build a formidable defense. What it has lacked is the urgency and the political courage. The Gripen is more than just a fighter jet. It is a wake-up call, a klaxon blaring in the ears of a sleeping giant. It is a reminder that independence is not given, it is earned, and Europe must now decide if it is finally ready to earn it. The clock is ticking.